Is justice a necessity or a luxury? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Some disagree in a world of racism, sexism, classism. Do urban development and civil rights organizations still have a place in American society? Or are they antiquated nonprofits that profit from the lower class? Andrew Wells and Stephanie Schmitz-Beckteller from the Chicago Urban League on CounterPoint with Gerard McClendon. Thank you for joining us on CounterPoint. Call or text 844-777-9311. Hey, tweet me at GerardMC. Send Facebook comments to CounterPoint Gerard. Joining me at the CounterPoint, Andrew Wells and Stephanie Schmitz-Beckteller from the Chicago Urban League. Welcome, you guys.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for being here. You know what? Before we even start the show today, I want to go to some video that basically catalogs some of the accomplishments that the Urban League has done, as well as some of the statistics that people aren't that aware of. So before we get into our conversation, let's take a look at some Urban League video.
So let's take a look at how it works. The 2015 Black-White Equality Index is 72.2%. If we consider this in terms of a pie, this means that rather than having a whole pie, 100%, which would mean full equality with whites, African Americans are missing about 28% of the pie. This is the 2015 Black-White National Equality Index. The largest improvements in this year's Black-White Index were in the categories of social justice and health, with only a small increase in economics. So, for the economics category with an index of 55.8%, African Americans are missing close to half of the economics pie. The small increase in the economics index was the result of improvements in the income, poverty, and home loan denial gaps. However, the unemployment and home ownership gaps widened.
Hey, you know, those are the numbers, and many times we think that all Americans are created equal when the reality is there's a lot of disparity in this country. The Urban League talks about disparity. I've got Stephanie, I've got Andrew with me today. First of all, before we get into some of the statistics, I want to loosen the two of you up. Let's talk about some of your resumes right quick. Stephanie, what is it that you do at the Urban League?
So I'm the Director of Research and Evaluation. So I have two roles in the organization. The first is to work with our programs team to make sure that the programs that we offer, the services that we offer, have the impact that we want to see, so that we are helping people and we're helping people in meaningful ways. That's one hat that I wear. The second one, increasingly, is doing research that really looks at the broader African American community in Chicago. And some of the things that this report talks about here, you know, what are the differences in, you know, how has segregation played a role in things like housing and transportation, access to jobs, the kind of education that the kids receive, and the kind of small businesses that are able to develop in communities.
So you got two very big hats that you're wearing, and we're going to talk about those hats in a little bit. Andrew Wells, your title at Chicago Urban League, what are your responsibilities?
Director of Workforce Development, and I oversee all of the workforce contracts, which incorporates everything from employment to training, and also to develop business relationships with the community, so our participants can have access to these economic opportunities.
Good. I know I'm in good hands, but let's look at some more in-depth aspects of your resumes. Where'd you grow up, Andrew?
West side of Chicago.
Oh, what high school?
Born and raised, George P. Stuyvesant.
And where'd you go to undergrad?
Undergrad, Roosevelt University.
Man,
Yes.
after Roosevelt.
After Roosevelt, Walden University.
Excellent. Hey, what did you get from Walden?
Master's in Business Administration.
Okay, it's getting better and better.
Yes.
Stephanie, where'd you grow up?
So I'm born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, although I've lived in the Chicago metro suburbs for the rest of my life then.
And college?
Roosevelt University as well.
I got two Roosevelt University people here. It's looking like a conspiracy of sorts. After Roosevelt, where'd you go?
So I got my master's in social work from the University of Chicago, and then I completed my PhD just last year at the University of Illinois at Chicago.
Okay, I know I'm in good hands, and I'm feeling better already because I want to start with mission and vision of the Urban League, and then I want to talk about some things pertaining to the skepticism that people have as it pertains to the quality work that the Urban League does. What the mission and vision, why does the Urban League even exist, either of you?
Well, you know, we really believe in educational equity, economic equity, and social progress for African Americans. I mean, these are the three cornerstones of the work that we do. So all of the programming that we offer, the services that we offer, really are towards that end. And we really envision a better Chicago for African Americans, but actually not just for African Americans, a better Chicago. You know, when we uplift everyone that's living in the city, we uplift the city as a whole. So I think that's a broader part of the conversation.
Rising tide
Yes.
is supposed to raise all boats, and when it comes to jobs and equity, do you find, Andrew, that the Urban League is fulfilling part of that role with the role that you have at the Urban League?
I believe we are, definitely. Yet and still, there's a lot of work to be done in the city of Chicago.
Let's talk about that work that needs to be done. Now, there are urban leagues all around the United States, okay? The mission and the vision may be the same or similar, but does the actual activity and work that needs to be done, does it differ? Is a Chicago Urban League different from, and give me one or two other city names where there's an urban league?
Have LA, New York, New Orleans,
How does
Texas.
Chicago differ in its urban league capacity than some of these other cities? Give me a few examples.
Well, I think the scope of our work is certainly, I mean, Chicago's a huge place.
Yeah.
And we have a very large African American population. And actually, Chicago isn't just Chicago, but, you know, it's Northwest Indiana. It's the burbs as well. I mean, we have a large area that we can serve. So even though we focus on Chicago, we have a large area in which we can provide, you know, assistance to people. So I think the scope of it is a piece of it. And I think historically, a lot of the segregation measures have shown that Chicago really has, I mean, it's moving slightly in the right direction, but that progress is very slow when it comes to segregation. This is long-standing. We were talking 100 years of segregation that's existed. So we look a little different from some of these other cities.
Chicago is an interesting experiment in the crucible of municipalities throughout the United States of America. That's to put it mildly, right? I'm being real nice with my euphemisms here, right? So it's been touted that Chicago, most segregated city in the United States. What does that mean, though? Is that, I mean, when people say that, is that a negative? Is that a positive? What does that mean?
You just wrote the book on this.
So I think this is why it matters. I think segregation is the consequence of long-standing intentional policies and practices that we put in place to ensure that some groups live in some areas and have access to some resources, and then other groups live in other areas.
Does that really take place, Stephanie?
Absolutely.
I mean, you mean the Dan Ryan Expressway put in the middle of
That wasn't a complete accident.
That was an accident?
No,
It's just
not
a good
at
place
all.
to put it, right?
That was right. That was totally intentional. No, and I think that's part of what it is. So, and I don't think people realize, when we released a report in March that really shows the 100 years of policies and practices to this day that are still occurring that really contribute to residential segregation. And why that matters is because so much of what we experience in life is tied to our address.
Exactly.
The jobs that we want to get, the schools that we go to. Do we have access to a grocery store? Do we have access to a laundromat? Everything that we experience in our life is tied to the place that we live.
Tied to an address.
To your address.
Let's talk about addresses, and we're going to talk about some research a little bit later. But let's talk about addresses, Andrew. Getting a job. I'm 17 years old. I live in a neighborhood that's a pocket neighborhood of low employment, high unemployment. Does the Urban League contribute to me, a 17-year-old who's looking for a job? Can the Urban League help me?
Definitely, the Urban League can help you. One of the things that we can do to combat that is we provide transportation assistance. So, say for instance,
wait, whoa. See, now we're getting there already. I'm gonna let you talk, but we're getting there already because I didn't know that.
Yes.
You can provide transportation services for people to get to work?
Yes.
Talk to me, Andrew.
Well, because some of the jobs, like say for instance, a lot of the manufacturing jobs, supply chain management, logistics are located out in the suburbs, which now it's hard to actually access those jobs because of the transportation system, the RTA. However, we're able to provide that transportation assistance for a person to leave his community, go out to work in the suburbs.
This is good because when you go to the far western suburbs or the northern suburbs, you see these huge corporate campuses, and they're beautiful.
And they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. And what's interesting is that the population in those communities is sparse. And you know, that always kind of was, I've always was inquisitive. That always puzzled me. I'm like, okay, I understand that these corporate parks want this nice plot of land, but why don't they build these in communities where there's more people? Well, you know, what's up with that?
I mean, I'm suspecting, you know, usually when you entice businesses to come to an area, they get benefits to that. So I'm guessing that underpinning a lot of the development of some of these businesses and organizations outside of the central city is because they probably got some good incentives to do so, which is great. Which brings us to the point that we talk about often, which is, so then how do we get those incentives to businesses so that we see that, especially on the south and west side of Chicago, especially on the south side where we have tracts of land that would be available for that kind of development. We would love to see that work happen too.
And it's important that the city provide those same incentives so that way they can bring the corporations back to the city of Chicago, where our residents, our participants can have access to those jobs and they won't have to travel to the suburbs.
It saddens me at times, and I know we're gonna have to break in a minute to go into our second segment. It saddens me that you have an entire west side and south side of Chicago that is corporate starved, that is employment starved, and you drive 20, not even 20 miles, you just drive maybe 8, 9 miles outside of those areas, and there's this cornucopia of job.
There's a lot more opportunity.
Yeah, of opportunity, absolutely.
Definitely.
I mean, we have really 4 main employment hubs, you know, in the metro area. We've got the downtown, which is great. That's accessible to, you know, the south and west side. But once you start pushing out to the northwest suburbs or to the far west suburbs, assuming you have a car, that's a lengthy commute. But if you don't and you're relying on public transportation, that could be a 2-hour, one-way, 2-hour commute out to those really great opportunities.
And not only that, you're limited as well because sometimes public transportation system will cut off, you know, bus routes. So the last route may be at 7 o'clock, and if you get off at 8 p.m., then that's a problem. You're stuck out in the suburbs.
Oh, man. See, we're going to talk about some more of these challenges here after the break, and I want to get more in depth as it pertains to college degrees, GEDs and diplomas, and that starvation that takes place in these communities as well. Are the Urban League and NAACP, are they still needed? Here are a few of your Facebook comments. Janice Troutman says, the Urban League helped me get a job in Washington, D.C., Gerard. Yes, they are still needed. Ty Guinness says, not really sure what the NAACP does anymore, Gerard. Don't see them in the news much. Aaron Johnson says, Urban League helps who they want to help. I think they follow what the mayors want and not what the people want. Alice Briggs says, at the expo at McCormick Place, the Chicago Urban League president, Sherry Runner, talked about helping poor communities. Voice your concerns and We the People. Call or text me at 844-777-9311. You can tweet me at GerardMC and send Facebook comments to CounterPoint Gerard. We'll be back shortly. Tweet me, post on Instagram, or send me a message on Facebook. Let's start the conversation. Your voice is important on CounterPoint.
Have after-school programs for young people. We serve several 100,000 young people in after-school programs each and every year. We have job training and job placement programs. And we do this work through a network of 90 on-the-ground locations in urban communities that we call affiliates. We serve about 100,000 people a year when it comes to housing financial literacy. We serve about 12,000 businesses a year through a suite of, in effect, free consulting services called our Entrepreneurship Centers, and it's through that program that we work with Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program.
Welcome back to CounterPoint. Andrew Wells and Stephanie Schmitz-Bechteller from the Chicago Urban League join me as we talk about justice. How about that? Social justice on CounterPoint. Welcome back. Thanks so much. We just saw a clip from your fearless leader, National Director of the Urban League, Mark Morial. He's quite an interesting figure, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Highly intelligent, great leadership, and someone who's passionate about this cause of building community. You know, and I really appreciate that. You know, let's talk about the Urban League's role in, if it even has one, in improving the diploma, high school graduation, GED increases, or even college graduation in communities. Does the Urban League have anything to do with that?
Definitely. As a part of workforce development programming, we have attached to it for those who don't have their high school diploma GED, we coordinate work with the community colleges of Chicago to provide that that programming to them. And then also with supply chain management, it offers up to 8 stackable industry recognized credentials. We work with the city colleges of Chicago, in particular Daly College, to provide advanced manufacturing certifications. We work with Symbol Training Institute. We have quite a few partners, James Adams Resource Corporations, to provide these technical training certifications. In our construction training project, it's on hold now, but when we operated that program, we provided flagger certifications, CDLs, and also OSHA 10 cards for individuals who wanted to go into the highway construction industry. So it's the center of our operations as it relates to programming is to make sure that you have the skills needed to compete for those jobs in high growth sectors.
Okay, I'm loving that.
We do have some other ones as well for school kids too, through our Project Ready programs. And I'll speak on behalf of our director, Danielle Parker, who's fantastic and is in DC actually at the moment at a conference. But so we help students from middle school through high school into their first years of college through that entire continuum, meet those academic milestones at each of those points. So in middle school, we prepare you for high school. In high school, we prepare you for college. And that's very hands-on, mentor-based programming that really works with the kids and their parents as well to get them through those levels.
What grade through what? Say it again.
So it starts at middle school, so 6th grade, goes all the way through college.
Okay.
Yep.
On the surface, that's peach pie. That's wonderful stuff. But I'm going to give you a skeptic alert, all right? So I got to bring in my skeptic alert because of this. Okay, 8th grade through college, okay, that's all well and good. You mentioned community college. That's all well and good. However, do you think that the Urban League is targeting those individuals who need it most? See, it's easy to help someone who's borderline or someone who wants a greater opportunity. It's a little bit more difficult to help someone who's like, I don't need that. Do you even try to reach those people who say, I don't need that, or do you leave it alone? What's the Urban League's platform or sortie or launch of helping those who feel like the world is against them? I'm never going to be anything. I may not live to be 25. Are you targeting those people?
That's who we target with our employment and training programs. Is that individual who feel like they just have nowhere to turn, or if they say, well, I don't think I need this. One of the things that our workforce staff work towards is to help change that mindset with those individuals, to show them that, you know, you can make money legally, and also there are other opportunities out there for you, but we will guide you along that pathway.
Yeah. We have that for the kids as well.
So
we have that for the young.
Definitely.
Yeah, we have that for the young men and actually increasingly young women as well.
See, I'm loving this because this gets to something that is one of my pet peeves, drug selling.
Yes.
People think that when you sell drugs, you make a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a hand-to-mouth existence. You're always looking over your shoulder. You're always afraid. Programs like the programs you offer are so important because you can infiltrate and maybe get some students who don't want to be in that trade out of there.
Yeah.
Freakonomics, Stephen Levitt, Stephen
that.
Doubler.
Yes.
They talk about, you know, being a drug dealer and how most drug dealers, street drug dealers with jeans and a cell phone and a white t-shirt, most of them only make about $900 a month. So who are their peers? People that work at fast food restaurants. So wow, wouldn't it be nice for them to get a job at a fast food restaurant as opposed to slanging stuff on the street? Is there a way to combat that? Can the Urban League get their hands dirty and get in there and try? Don't get me wrong, drug sales and the want for drugs and the demand is going to be there. But you know, $900 a month, and I'm looking over my shoulder and I'm afraid that Ray is gonna come clip somebody in my family. Dude, what's the Urban League doing for that?
You know, and I think that a lot of times people think with these young guys that it's all about the money, and that's a piece of it. But you know, we have some amazing youth advocates that work with the young men, especially those who've had some touches with the criminal justice system, and they will talk about, oh, sure, maybe the money or the selling is the piece of it, but it's also there's a brotherhood and a fellowship and a respect and a friendship that comes from involvement. So even though, from an adult perspective, or it feels or seems dysfunctional, the young guys are getting something from this. And so what these advocates have done and continue to do day in and day out, off hours, all hours, is they try to build that fellowship and that respect and that friendship and that love too with these guys.
And I'm in total agreement with you, but we need Urban League to put some parental programs, teach people how to be parents again.
And actually,
having
we
babies
have that.
too young. You know, for one, you're having sex too young.
Right.
You're having sex and you don't have a job. You're not married. See, people are afraid to say this stuff, but I'm telling the truth right now. And then we basically say, oh, they come from a poor, unfortunate community, so they need some breaks. No. Learn. You got a woman and man up. You know, because when I see 4, 5, 6 people getting shot in the city of Chicago every day, there's a mother and father missing. Urban League, help me out now. You know, what good is Mark Morial in a $1,000 suit if man is gonna hurt somebody today?
True. My colleague, Angela Bailey, who runs the Human Capital Department, work with young men and women, those in particular who have socio-emotional problems. She works inside of Chicago public school system, so her objective is to grab them at the stage where they're in that learning process. And she talks about parenting, she talks about gang violence, she talks about how you can create a path to success without going that route. I think the thing is that a lot of these youth get recruited into these gangs sometimes, what's the word I'm looking for, Stephanie? Not by volunteering to go into the gangs, but they get recruited in. And they're pressured. And that's the key thing. And once they're in, they're scared to get out because they get those death threats, you know? And that's the thing that we work towards is to try to pull them out of that, to make sure that they have opportunities that are legal and not illegal, but they get recruited in and they're pressured.
Let's talk about research. And I know we have very little time left, but tell me about your research passion.
Yes.
I want to know what really, because you got that glow in your eye right now. And what's your research passion as it pertains to Urban League?
So here's the thing. I love research because that's how I was trained, but I love research with a purpose, and that's really where I draw my line in the sand. So data is great, information is great, but if we don't do something with the data and the information, if we don't take that next step to translate what we find into what we should do, then it's just information for information's sake. And you can have a commission and you can have a committee that puts out all sorts of reports, but it's actually in the action that we have to do things. So for us at the League, you know, we're commemorating 100 years. And I think initially you had brought up to this conversation about the relevance of our work and the relevance of our being here. And here's the thing, 100 years on, we can, you know, check off some successes that we've made. We can also equally look at some of it's like the more things change, the more things stay the same. So we have some of the same issues that we're facing in the communities that we serve. It's the same disinvestment that we've seen for years and years and years. So the research gives us that snapshot. What we're looking to do, and we'll be launching this and introducing this very shortly, is we're going to put our line in the sand because we have to with the League, right?
What's the line in the sand? I got about 30 seconds.
So we got a 10-year plan. We are going to put a policy and advocacy plan in place that will guide our activities, our broader external community activities over the next 10 years, because we too believe that we got to put our money where our mouth is, right? We have to do this as well, and this is our time to do this too.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Andrew.
Yes.
I got 10, 15 seconds left. I got one question to ask you, man.
Sure.
Can a brother get a job?
We can help you.
You can?
We can help you. You know, only thing you have to do is come down to the Chicago Urban League. You can visit our office any day, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We host information sessions every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. And we can help you out, definitely.
Good.
Oh, and I just would like to put this out there for your viewers that we are hosting a citywide hiring fair at the UIC Forum. More information about that will be on our website in the coming days. So you can visit the Chicago Urban League, www.thechicagourbanleague.org.
See, he got that plug in. I love it. Hey, your American dream starts with the Bill of Rights, and if your civil rights are violated, you're already at a deficit. Justice, civil rights, and social nonprofits help us to swim through rough currents when the waves of unfairness are against us. Thanks to Andrew Wells and Stephanie Schmitz-Bechteller for joining me at the Counterpoint. Stay positive. I need you to keep your head up and always be encouraged to voice your counterpoint. Have a great week.